this video is going to be a tutorial on how to make this cute granny square chicken. To start off, you'll need some yarn. I'm using weight 4 yarn. I'm using a red color for the comb. I'm using yellow for the beak and white for the body of the chicken. You're also going to need a crochet hook. I'm sizing down my crochet hook for this project. I'd usually use a 5mm for this yarn, but I'm going to use a 4mm to just make sure that the stitches are a bit tighter. You're also going to need a darning needle to sew the squares together, and you're going to need some scissors to cut off the ends of the yarn. I'm also going to be using safety eyes for this chicken, and I'm going to be using stuffing. You're probably thinking, what is this bag? But it's actually recycled stuffing that I use that is scrap material that's been cut up, but you can use any stuffing. Now let's start the first round of the granny square. So to start off, I'm going to make a magic ring. So you loop the yarn around, and then you use your hook, and you go under the first part of yarn, over the second part, and pull it through. And now I'm going to chain 4, which is going to count as a treble crochet for the corner of this granny square. Now I'm going to do 3 double crochets into the circle. So that's 1, this is 2, and 3. So I'm just going to count 1, 2, 3 double crochets, and now you're going to do 1 treble crochet into the magic ring. So there's 1 treble crochet, and then now you do another 3 double crochet into the loop. So 1, 2, 3 double crochets into the magic ring. And now we're at a corner again, so I'm going to do another treble crochet. So that is a couple sides done, and we still have to do 2 more. So now you do 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Another treble crochet. And now 3 more double crochets into the magic ring to make the last side of the first round. So that is the 3rd one there. So now I'm just going to pull the magic ring tight. And after tightening the magic ring, you can see here that it makes a little square. And to join the square, you're going to insert your hook into the 4th chain, so the top of that chain 4 from the beginning of the round. So you just insert your hook, and then you're just going to slip stitch. So I'm going to finish the slip stitch and tighten it, and then that's the end of round 1. So again, I'm just going to tighten the magic circle again just to get it looking a bit better and make it a little more secure. So now this is the beginning of round 2. So we're going to chain 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this counts as our first treble crochet corner. Now you're going to double crochet into that same stitch. So I'm going to do the double crochet, and you're going to do another double crochet into that same stitch, and this is for the corner. So now I'm going to double crochet across each double crochet that's in the side. So for this round, it's 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, 3 double crochet, and it's just 1 in each stitch across the side till you get to that treble crochet. Now in the treble crochet, what you're going to do, you can see it there, it's the corner. So you're going to do 2 double crochets into the stitch, 1, 2, then you're going to do a treble crochet to make the sort of pointy part of the corner, and then you're going to do 2 more double crochets. So again, in the corner it's 2 double crochet, 1 treble crochet, 2 double crochet. And now you're back at the side. So what you're going to do now is just do 1 double crochet and each double crochet across the side again. So there's 1, 2, 3, and now you're back to that corner treble crochet again. So you're going to work 1 double crochet, a second double crochet, 1 treble crochet, and then 2 more double crochets. 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet. And then now you're done that corner. So again, you're going to work double crochets across the whole side. 1, 2, and 3. And we're back at the last corner. So what we're going to do is 2 double crochet into that treble stitch. 1, 2, 1 treble crochet, and then 2 more double crochet. 1 and 2. So now you're on the last side. So again, you're going to double crochet in each double crochet across, and then you'll get to that corner and I'll tell you what to do. So 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, 3 double crochet, and now we're at that beginning corner again, and you're going to work 2 double crochets into that corner, into the same stitch where the chain 4 is, because that chain 4 is going to count as that treble crochet for the corner. So now the corner is done, and you're just going to join by slip stitching into the top of that chain 4, similar to how you slip stitched for the last round. So I'm going to insert the hook into the top of the chain 4, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through once more and tighten the slip stitch. So that is the end of round 2. And for the next 3 rounds, I'm actually just going to speed them up because it follows the exact same pattern for round 2, where you basically just crochet double crochets across the sides and you do that corner that I went through in round 2. So you do, for the corners, you do 2 double crochet, 1 treble crochet, 2 double crochet. So what I'm going to do is actually 3 more rounds. So in total, it's going to be 5 rounds of this crochet pattern for the granny square. So for this round, since it's round 3, I am going to put a little instruction up on the screen for this 3rd round. But for the next 2 rounds, I'm just going to say repeat the same pattern as the last round. And I do just want to do a little reminder to tell you that you are crocheting a double crochet in each double crochet across the side. So it is going to be a different number of double crochet stitches in each round because the square is getting bigger each round. So that's why I'm putting 1 DC in each DC across the side instead of giving a certain number of double crochets to do, if that makes sense. So now I'm at the end of round 5 and I'm just going to do the last few stitches and then show you how I'm going to tie off this square. So I'm just doing the last 2 double crochets across, the second one, and then I'm going to do 2 double crochets in that beginning corner to finish the corner. So 1, 2, And then once again, I'm going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 4 to join the square. So I'm going to insert the hook, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through once again, and now I'm going to tighten it, and I'm going to yarn over and pull through one more time so that I can make a knot. So you just pull that to tighten it, and then I'm actually going to leave quite a bit of a long end for this one because I'm going to be using this long end to sew the 2 granny squares together. So you can see here how I measure it out is kind of like random, like it's not like a specific measurement, but what I tend to do is I kind of do around 3.5 lengths of the square to sort of see if that's long enough. So 1, 2, 3, and then I will cut it off, and that's the long end that I'm going to use to sew the 2 squares together. So also, I kind of forgot, what you're going to do now is just pull through that long end using the loop that you already made, and you're just going to pull the one side, and you're going to do this to make the actual knot. So now you have the knot, and then you have the long end that you're going to use to sew the 2 squares together. So now I'm going to make the second square and come back with that one. So now I'm at the end of the second square, and what I'm going to do is just do the last 2 stitches into that beginning corner. So 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 4 again. And this granny square is the exact same as the last one, I just obviously didn't include it for time reasons. And then I'm going to pull through, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through once again to make a knot. And for this one, I am going to leave a bit of an end, but it's not going to be as long. So I'm just going to do like 2 1.5 lengths of the square. So now both squares are officially done once I pull through that loop to tie off the knot. And now that both squares are done, what I'm going to do is start the process of sewing them together. So remember how you have the one square with the longer tail? This is the one you're going to be using to sew the sides together, and then I'm just going to keep that other tail to the side of the other square. So you're going to put the yarn through your darning needle, and once I do that, I'll start sewing. I'm just going to be using a mattress stitch for this, but you really can use any stitch that you want. You could honestly probably even crochet them together if you'd prefer. So for the mattress stitch, what I'm going to do is line up the wrong sides of the squares facing inward. So it'll be the right sides of the squares on both sides, the outside. So you put the ends of the magic circles together, if that makes sense. And then what you do, I'm going to line it up so that that other tail of the square is on the same end as the tail I'm using to sew. And you'll see why later. I'm just kind of using it as a visual reference. For the mattress stitch, you do the back loop of the first side, and then you go through the back loop of the same lined up stitch on the other square. So I'm saying it's a back loop because the wrong side is technically closer to you, but it's the side that's closest to you. If that makes sense. I hope that like the visual, you can see what I mean. So I'll say like the inside loops if that makes more sense. And then you are just going to do the same thing, sew across 3 of the sides. So it's just up the one side, cross the other side, and then down the other side. And you just do the mattress stitch the whole time, even at the corners. I just did one sort of stitch for the mattress stitch for that too. So it's just the same thing, you just repeat it all the way across. So once again, you go in from the outside of the loop, the back loop, and then you take your needle and go from the outside again into the inside loop of the other square. Sorry, I got a little messed up there, but you go inside that loop from the outside, and then you just repeat the same thing. So you just go back and forth, making sure that you're inserting the needle from the outside of the square going to the inside loop. And then what I do is I'll do a few stitches and then I tighten it a little bit just so I don't have to tighten the whole thing at the end. So there's another stitch. As you can see, you just go back and forth. It's pretty easy and it looks good. It's a good stitch to use for sewing together. So there's another stitch. So now I'm going to tighten it, and you just pull the working end of the yarn to tighten a bit. You don't want it to be too tight, but you want it to be tight enough that the yarn doesn't look super loose. And then you just keep going doing the same thing. I am going to show the whole side for this one. I might just speed up this part a little bit until I get to the corner. And then I'll show you how to do the corner. It's the same thing, but it can be a little tricky, the idea of working around the corner. Okay, so after that sped up clip, I'm now at the last few stitches before the corner. So you're just gonna do the same thing as you've been doing, and you're just gonna check to make sure that the corner does line up, that you've done like the right number of stitches. It's okay if you haven't, but you do want to make sure that you're stitching the corner 2 stitches together. So I'm just gonna do the last few until I get to the corner, and the corner one is now that treble crochet. So this is the last one before the treble crochet. So what you're gonna do for this one is see that it is the treble crochet stitches, and it's just the same thing. You work the yarn through the inside loop of the one square and then also through the inside loop of the other square from the outside, as you've been doing. And then now I'm going to tighten up that little last section of the yarn, and then you just, here you can see what it looks like so far. So then all you do is you take the squares and you just turn it, and you're just going to work the same stitch all the way across. And then when you get to that other corner, you're going to do the same thing, work the same stitch all the way across. So in the end, you will have sewed 3 sides together, leaving the last sides open. So once again, this is me doing the other 2 sides. So I've gone to that second corner, and now I'm doing the last side, the third side, and then the 4th side will be open. You do not sew it together. So here I am doing the last couple stitches on the 3rd side that you sew together, and then I'm just going to show you how I tie off the stitch for this one. So I'm just doing the corner now, and here is the last stitch that I'm going to pull through. So now what you do is I'm going to tie 2 knots just to secure this stitch. So I'm just going to take my darning needle and go through kind of any loop on the inside. So I'm just going to go through a loop, and then I take the yarn and I just kind of loop it around the needle, as you can see here, and then you pull through, and you just pull through the needle so that you can make a knot. You can see it makes a little knot here, and then I'm just going to tighten it. And then I'm actually going to do another one of these knots to make sure that it's extra secure. So again, you loop it around the front of the needle, and then you pull through, and then you tighten it. So there's the second knot. So now that's all I need to do with that yarn, so I'm going to take it off of the needle, and I'm just going to put it in the inside of these squares for now. The nice thing about this pattern is you don't have to weave in any ends. You just sort of stick them into the inside because you're going to be stuffing the chicken anyways. So just as a sort of recap, you have that other end, which was from the second square, which is a little shorter, that's still sticking out. And then I'm gonna show that I sewed the third side. So this is the one that you tucked the end into the squares, the second side, and back to the first side that we sewed. So that's where that little end that's sticking out is from. Now I'm going to take this opportunity to tie off the magic circle so that it doesn't come undone later on. So to do this, you make the same sort of knot. So what you do is you put the yarn on the needle, and then you insert the needle into a loop, loop the yarn around the front of the needle, and then pull it through to make the knot. So I usually make 2 knots just to make sure it's extra secure. So that's the second one. And then I'm just going to take it off of the needle, and I'm going to do the same thing for the other side, but I'm not going to show it just for time's sake. So after that, I have my squares, and I'm going to have the open side of the squares at the bottom, and I'm actually going to rotate it to be on the left. So now we're going to make the comb of the chicken. So a reminder that the open side is on the left. So I'm going to make a slip knot with the red on my hook, and I'm using the same hook as before. And now what you're going to do, making sure that open side is on the left again, you're going to pick up your squares, and from the corner you're going to count 7 stitches. So you don't count that first corner stitch. So from the corner you're going to count 7 double crochets to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and what you're going to do is insert your hook into this stitch. So I'm actually going to take the slip knot of yarn off of the hook for now, but I'm going to keep it there. I'm just going to put it down, and then I'm going to insert the hook into that 7th double crochet from the corner. So once again, you have that corner stitch here, the treble crochet, and then it's 1, 2, 3 double crochets, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that is where you're going to insert your hook. So for this, you're actually going to insert through the stitch, the double crochet stitch, but also underneath the stitching you did to sew the 2 sides together. And then you're also going to insert it through all the way to the other side of the other double crochet on the other square. I know that sounds probably really confusing, but I'm hoping that if you watch, it kind of makes sense. So you go all the way through and under the stitch through to the next side. So on the other side, you can see that is all the way through that double crochet as well, and it goes under the sewing that you did to sew the 2 sides together. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Then you're going to put the loop on your hook and pull it through the stitch, and then you're going to chain 1. And now what you're going to do for the comb is 1 single crochet in the same stitch. Then you're going to do 2 half double crochets in that same stitch. So that's 1 half double crochet, and now a second half double crochet. So all of those are in the same stitch. Now you're going to go into the next stitch. So you're going to yarn over and then insert into that stitch, the next stitch. And then you're going to yarn over and pull through, and you're going to do a half double crochet is what you're doing. So that is the first half double crochet, and you're going to do 2 more. So in total, you're going to do 3 half double crochets in this same stitch. So that is the third one. Okay, so now for the next stitch, you're going to insert your hook, pull through, and do a single crochet. So that's all you're doing in that stitch. Now for the next stitch, which is the 4th stitch, you're going to insert and do a single crochet. Then you're going to do a half double crochet. And then after that half double crochet, you're going to do 1 double crochet. And that is all for the 4th stitch. Now for the 5th stitch, you're going to do 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, and then you're going to do 1 treble crochet. So there is that 1 treble crochet, and that is all for that stitch. For the next one, you're going to do 2 treble crochets. So there's 1 treble crochet, and then here is the second treble crochet, and then you're going to do 1 double crochet. So that is it for that stitch. Now for the next stitch, you're going to do 1 double crochet, 1 half double crochet, and then you're going to do 1 single crochet. Oop, slipped off my hook, but 1 single crochet. Okay, so now you're actually at that corner one. So what you're going to work into this one is 1 single crochet, and you make sure you go all the way through. So 1 single crochet, and then 2 half double crochets. So there is 1 half double crochet, a second half double crochet. Sorry, I got a bit stuck. Anyways, there's the second one. And then in the next stitch, what you're going to do is 2 half double crochets. Again, just checking that I went through all the way on both sides. So there is 1 half double crochet, a second half double crochet, and then 1 single crochet. And then what I'm gonna do is actually tie it off from here. So I'm just gonna kind of fluff it out a bit. And there is the comb for the chicken. So to tie it off, once again, you're gonna yarn over and pull through. And then you're just gonna draw up the loop and tighten it. So that is the comb for the chicken. I'm just gonna grab my scissors just to cut off the end. So after I cut off this end, you're going to pull through the loop just to actually make the knot and then tighten the knot a bit. Now, I'm actually going to do this now before I go on to the next step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the end of the comb, put it through my darning needle, and then I'm actually just going to stitch it through the comb a little bit on the one side. And it doesn't really matter what loops you put it through. I'm just like working its way down the loops to get to like the bottom part of the comb, if that makes sense. But sorry, the reason why I'm doing this is to put the red end of the thread on the inside of the chicken so you don't see it later and that you don't have to weave in the ends. So yep, so now you can see that it looks pretty good, and I'm just going to do the same thing with the other end. So I'm going to put it on the darning needle, and then I'm going to put it into the inside of the granny squares just so that I don't have to weave it in later. Yeah, so that is the comb part. I think it looks pretty good. So I'm just going to put it down, and then next I'm actually going to add the eyes. So I'm just using some safety eyes for this. So what I'm going to do is just kind of pick a spot where I think it would look good. I usually do it in the fourth round is kind of where I put the eye, in the same corner as where the comb is, obviously. So I'm just going to take the front of the eye and stick it through. So I just kind of put it in that corner of the fourth round. And I put it here, but I don't really like how it looks, so I'm just going to move it over a little bit. And I think I'm going to put it right in the corner. So I'm just kind of putting it through the yarn, and I think that looks okay. So now I'm going to flip it inside out so that I can add the backing onto it. So I'm adding the backing, just going to push it down to secure it, and then flip it right side out again. And then now I am going to repeat the same thing with the other side to put the other eye on, and I'm just going to match it up and put it in that same corner. So this part I am just going to speed up because it's the same thing as before. So now you have both eyes on the chicken, and I'm just going to check to make sure that they're kind of even. And I think it's looking pretty good, so I'm pretty happy with this so far. And next we're going to add the beak. So for the beak, I'm going to take the yellow yarn that I have, and I'm going to make a slip knot on the hook. And then once again, I'm actually going to take this knot off the hook for now. And I'm going to insert the hook into the fourth double crochet stitch from the end of the comb. So there is the fourth stitch that I just inserted it into the hook, and then what I'm going to do is put that loop, the slip knot that I made, back on the hook and pull it through, and then I am going to chain one and then do one single crochet, and then I'm going to do one half double crochet, all in the same stitch, by the way, and then one double crochet, and then one more half double crochet, all in the same stitch. And then what I'm going to do is actually yarn over and pull through to make a knot, and that is the beak. And normally what I would do, if it was like obviously longer thread, I would take my scissors and I would snip the end, but I was using sort of a shorter piece of the yellow yarn, so what I'm just going to do is pull through that loop to tighten the knot. And then I'm going to do the same thing where I take the darning needle to hide the ends right away. So again, I'm just going to work it through a couple loops of the beak till I get down to the part where the white yarn is. So I just went through one, and I'm going to go through another one here. And then I'm going to take the end of the yarn and put it to the inside of the two squares. So I just pulled it through, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the other tail as well. So I'm just going to put it through the darning needle and then loop it through so that it is on the inside of the two granny squares. So now for these ends, because they're so close together, what I'm actually going to do to secure them further is tie them together. I don't always do this, but because it is such a small little beak and I just want it to be put together, I'm going to tie it together just to be extra secure. So just do 1 knot, 2 knots, that's it, just a double knot. And then all of those ends, you're just going to stick them to the inside. So here is what the chicken is looking like so far, pretty good. Now the next step is to fill the chicken with the stuffing that you're going to be using. And also, reminder, you're just going to keep that one end out, just kind of as a visual cue for later for how you're going to sew the ends together. So you're just going to use stuffing until you feel that it is as stuffed as it should be. And then now I'm happy with the shape of the chicken, so what I'm going to do is have that long tail on the bottom, and I'm going to take the top of the chicken and put it together. So what you're actually putting together here is the two seams. And what you're going to do now is you're going to sew across this line that I've created here from left to right. And that will make the end part of the shape of the chicken. So now I don't really need this tail here at the end anymore. I was just kind of using it as a visual so that it would hopefully like look a little easier, like make more sense on camera for how you squish together the last part for the last seam. So I actually cut off the end because I'm going to use that part of the yarn to sew it together. I just didn't need that much extra yarn. So now I'm just going to kind of squish it to change the shape a little bit until I'm happy with the shape, and then I'm going to take my white yarn and thread it through my darning needle, and once it is threaded through, I'll start stitching across the bottom. I am also using the mattress stitch for this as well. So what you're going to do is start on the left side and stitch all the way across to the right side. So it's the same thing where you go through from the outside into the inside loop. So you go through that inside loop again, and you're just going to keep doing the same thing that you did for the other sewing, which is the same thing all the way across for this final seam. I am going to speed it up, and then once I get to the middle, I'm going to stop though to show you how to do the middle part, because it gets a little bit tricky. It's not that tricky, but there's a little extra step because the middle of this seam is actually one of the seams from before, if that makes sense. So I will stop there. So now I'm at the middle. What I'm going to do is, I don't know, hopefully you can see here, I'm going to insert into both loops of that seam and pull through. So I'll show you on the top side as well. Sorry, I just have to put it back through the darning needle. But I'm going to go through one loop, as you can see there, and then another loop of where the seam is, and then pull it tight. And that is just to make sure that the two parts of the seam are stitched through as well, so that there's not a gap. And now you're just going to go through like regular and do the rest of the side like the regular mattress stitch that you've been doing before. So this is just the first stitch, and then I will speed it up and show you how to tie it off once I get to the end. So now I have finished sewing all the way across the seam. I'm just going to tighten it up a little bit, and then I am going to tie it off using a couple more knots, and I'm just going to do the knots in the same way that I did before. I'm just going to go through sort of random loop here. And then after that knot, I'm actually just going to do a second knot to make sure it's extra secure, and I'm going to do it the same way as I usually do it. Looping over the needle, pulling through, and tightening the knot. And then what I'm going to do after this is I'm going to tuck that tail into the chicken. So I'm just going to insert insert the needle into a random spot kind of in the same stitch. And then just pull it through a bunch of the stuffing and then pull it out through another stitch a little ways away, and then I'm going to take my scissors and cut off the extra. And I'm going to repeat the same thing with the knots and then pulling it through on the other side, so I will speed that up because you already know how to do this part. So now I'm just going to take my scissors and snip off that other little end there, and that is it for the chicken. I'm just going to squish it a little bit to get the shape that I want. But yeah, there you have it, your new little chicken friend. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you are going to follow along with this tutorial and make one of these chickens, I would love to see how it turned out. So tag me on Instagram or let me know how it turns out in the comments below.